like endless rain into a paper.
Very apropos. Joining us now, an immensely talented, interesting man. Whenever I watch documentaries about Herzog, I have to almost balance it by going off into a different place to watch one about Lynch. There's a great one, I believe, called Lynch from the mid-2000s. And joining us now, the great film director David Lynch. Hey, Dave, how are you?
Good, Dennis. How are you doing?
I'm good, and I ran into Mike Love at a show I was doing in San Diego. He came to see it, and we visited backstage, and he was so contemplative and so fresh-faced at age 73, and it reminded me that he's into the TM, and I said, I have to get into that. So I'm starting up in Santa Barbara, and I know that you have ushered in some sort of, I don't know if rebirth's the right word, but tell me about your foundation. DavidLynch.org, I believe it's called.
The David Lynch Foundation, we have many great donors, and we try to give transcendental meditation to anyone who wants it in the world. It started primarily with students, and as of now, I believe we've helped teach 300,000 students transcendental meditation. And this technique allows any human being to dive within, experience the deepest level of life, eternal level of life, infuse that, grow in that. It's all positive intelligence, creativity, happiness, love, energy, and peace within every human being. We just need a technique to get there, tap it, and grow in that. And it's life-transforming. It's so beautiful. People get happy, feel good in their body, get more energy, more intelligence, more creativity, and they can boogie.
I just read a piece by a man in a London newspaper. He was one of the most sardonic writers I've ever read, but he finally had reached a point where he was just overwhelmed by the current digital, nonstop nature of his life and immersed himself in this for a scant couple months. But he said after his first 2 a day, 20 minutes a session, 2 sessions in a day thing, he felt something already. And he said, I went into it with the most cynical attitude.
You don't have to believe it will work, and it'll work. And people are suffering these days. Well, you just turn on the TV, you can see it all around from stress. And stress causes so many problems. There's stress-related illnesses. This, among many, 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 many benefits, is a stress buster. And for veterans, it's teaching lots and lots of veterans suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, and they get this technique and they say, I got my life back again.
We're talking to David Lynch, and you know him as a brilliant filmmaker, but more importantly to the purposes of this conversation, we're talking about his website, davidlynch.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at David_Lynch, and it is the David Lynch Foundation. Now, is it...
it's the David Lynch Foundation .org. Did you want it? Yeah, there's a davidlynch.com, but this is the foundation, davidlynchfoundation.org.
.org is where you want to go.
Right.
I went to the 50th anniversary of the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show, and I sat in the row behind Ringo. And as I watched him up on stage, I thought, my God, what a positive thing this is. He gives off such a sweet, loving vibe. And I guess he's a partaker, right, or a big advocate?
We just honored Ringo a couple of days before the event you went to, and gave him the Lifetime of Peace and Love Award. And Ringo is Mr. Peace and Love. He's been meditating since 1968, and he is a happy camper, a really good soul.
And was it, in fact, is it apocryphal, or was it, in fact, brought to our consciousness by the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi?
The Beatles did wonders for, getting this, awareness for this technique. And it went around the world because of the Beatles.
Talking to David Lynch, once again, that foundation is important. I'm going to try this. If anybody in the listenership wants to try it with me, I'd love to talk about it on the air. DavidLynchFoundation.org. Dave, is there anything, I live in Santa Barbara, that I need to know about looking for the proper person? I understand it's a first session and then 3 more additional sessions.
Right. You need a legitimate teacher of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi's Transcendental Meditation. Make sure it's a legitimate teacher. There's lots of different forms of meditation out there.
Right.
Lots of people say, well, I'll teach you Transcendental Meditation, but you can make sure it's a legitimate teacher. Probably go through the davidlynchfoundation.org and find out for sure if who says their legitimate teacher truly is.
Well, that's what I wanted to know because I needed a proper locator, so I will use davidlynchfoundation.org. Dave, when did you first start it, my friend?
I started on July 1st, 1973, a beautiful Saturday morning. I started around 11 a.m.
It almost sounds like somebody who's in the program and they can cite where they went. It must be.
It was like that for me. I'm telling you, I love this meditation. I've been meditating twice a day for almost 41 years and never missed a meditation.
I'm fascinated that you were able to ink the panel script for Angriest Dog in the World after you had found Transcendental Meditation. Folks, you have to Google that. It's a small thing, but it was very important to me when I lived in New York. I was an angry young man, and I used to read this panel in the Soho Weekly News called The Angriest Dog in the World by David Lynch, and it's one of the most brilliant cartoons I've ever seen.
Bless your heart, Dennis.
You're an intriguing cat, man. I watched that documentary. I thought, wow, this guy is a piece of work. It's working on all levels for you. I'm happy for you, David.
Thanks, Dennis. I'm happy for you, pal, that you'll get this technique, and let me know how you like it.
All right, we'll talk down the road. David Lynch, davidlynchfoundation.org. I can't wait. I think I'm going to call today, because it's one of those things you say, I got to start this, and then you end up, hang on, I'm sweating, my glasses got all fogged. Why should that matter when I'm on the radio? I don't know, but the fact that I couldn't see the mic, because they were all fogged.
You wouldn't know what to talk into.
That got switched on, isn't it? What's the most interesting part of that thing, besides my questions? From his part, him saying, well, you don't have to believe in it for it to work.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man, did that take your breath away? Or am I just sick?
No.
That really gave me goosebumps. You don't have to believe in it for it to work. You know, it's weird. I should have told him I have an odd thing in my head that I conflate him. You know how you sometimes have wires I have a couple wires that I can't unravel in my head. I can never remember, and I can now because I made a point to do a memory trick with it. There's an actor that was in The Dirty Dozen. He played the corporal. He turns up in a lot of things. His name's Richard Jekyll. And I had to literally log in Carlos the Jackal to take me to Jekyll. Because for years, when I would think of that young man, I'd think of the name Richard Champlain. And I could not get it out of my head. And it absolutely fascinated me that I had literally had to break it, like with some sort of mental karate chop using Carlos the Jackal. And I hated annotating him with some sort of negative force because I always find him to be an ebullient young man in the films. But finally, as you could see, I was able to go do the mid-step and get the name Richard Jekyll. So I always had that weird wire overlay. And I cannot think of Waiting for Godot or Samuel Beckett without assigning David Lynch's face to Samuel Beckett. And periodically, maybe once a year or something, and I don't think about Waiting for Godot. It's not like I'm waiting for Godot all the time, but it just pops into my head when my head's running. And I immediately assign Lynch's face. And then I have to go maybe once a year to reestablish Beckett's face in my head because it's such a great face. And I can see the Lynchian overlap there. You got any weird brain wires? You know, I used to be fascinated by Richard Riordan's when he was the mayor. Was he the governor or the mayor? What was he, Christian? Mayor of L.A.?
He was the mayor of L.A.
And you remember he said that you're a dirty little girl to that girl? He was in a school, and she said something, and he just couldn't stop himself.
He could not.
It was weird. I thought, oh, there's a wire that's, flashing on the ground. Let's go to Gene in Philly. It sounds like he's in the middle of a meditation course. Hey, Gene.
Yeah, hi. I'm about halfway through a course on meditation. It's not TM, but it's based on mindfulness and meditation, which is the mindfulness part is really more about slowing down your experiences, so you don't always find yourself rushing through a meal without.
So you're drinking Romalar again, is what you're telling me.
It's Romalation, we call it.
I read about this, mindfulness, while I was researching TM. I'm going to try TM because I like the switched-on sound in Lynch's voice, but I will go to the mindfulness knowing that Gene in Philly, one of our most agile intellects here, really a man for all seasons, a Renaissance man, is partaking of it. But it sounded like more work than this. And in mental fulfillment, I'm looking for a big, big honkin' lazy corridor.
This is the Dennis Miller Show.